All right, guys. So, using our inquiry lab for adding integers. Okay, vocab, green on the left, notes on the right. Our first word that you're going to see on there is something called zero pair. Everyone?
Zero pair.
Ooh, let's try that again. Zero pair, everyone?
Zero pair.
All right, so on there, okay, your definition in your book says the result when one positive counter is paired with one negative counter. The value of a zero pair is 0. The value of a zero pair is 0. Now, if you have no idea what that's talking about, I'm going to show you in just a bit, all right, in our activity. In your little box, go ahead and just write this down. Plus sign and, I should say a positive sign, sorry, and a negative sign is equal to 0. Positive sign and a negative sign is equal to 0. All right, now listen carefully because this is really, really important. Okay, our next word is addend. Everyone?
Addend.
All right, now you see that little asterisk right there, that little star? Okay, sometimes it'll look like that. Sometimes it'll have parentheses around the word. What that means is that means that it is in your lesson. You will need to get your lesson done successfully. You'll need to know what this means. That's why we're talking about it. But for some reason, the book did not put it in the vocabulary section. Okay, but you have to know what you need to know what this means to get your homework done correctly. Okay, so what that means is this word, because it's not in the vocab section, it's not in your vocabulary notes. Now you have one of two choices. Listen carefully, all right, where you remember them, so when we get to our homework, all right, in our lesson, you'll understand what it's asking of you. Okay, the directions are asking of you. Or some people decide, ooh, I don't know if I'm going to remember. I'm going to just write down some quick notes right in the extra spaces on our vocab. All right, so it's up to you. I'm leaving it up to you, whichever one you want to do. However you will learn better, go ahead and do. So here's what an add-in is. It's the integer being added with another integer. It's the integer being added with another integer. So for example, guys, if we have the equation, like the math problem, 2 plus negative 6 equals negative 4. This 2 right here and this negative 6, those are your add-ins. It's the integers that are being added. All right? Thus, addend. Okay? So those two numbers. Notice how negative 4 is not considered an addend. It's just the two integers within the problem that are being added together. Okay? Now, hopefully you guys will recognize this from elementary school. And the next one is sum. Everyone?
Sum.
All right, so sum is the answer to an addition problem. So we have our add-ins that are added together, and it's going to equal the sum. So for example, if you have a problem, negative 3 plus 5, well, the positive 2, the answer is considered the sum. So you're going to see your book talk about add-ins and sums, and I want to make sure that when you read those directions, it'll be easy for you. You'll know what it's talking about. All right. So a negative 4 on this problem is the sum, while those two are add-ins. On this problem, negative 3 and a positive 5 are add-ins. The 2 is the sum. All right. Then the next word. And this one doesn't have an asterisk in it, so meaning that it's in your notes. And I think we've already talked about this. So you probably already have it written down. But it does pop up, right? It will pop up in your activity. And that is absolute value. Everyone?
Absolute value.
I know we just talked about this. This is the distance a number is from 0 on a number line. That's important when you're adding and subtracting integers. So I've already shown you that. Last time we put a negative 5 inside the absolute value lines. But that's more algebraic, meaning it's using an x. Okay. All right. So, questions on any of those words? You're going to see them all in this activity. Okay. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. Okay. For right now, I want to go over, give you some background on this for this activity to make more sense to you. All right. So that right there. Okay. That is considered not a plus sign or an addition sign. That is a positive. All right, that's a positive 1. So if you take a look at our number line, it's that 1 right there. Okay, now if I take that positive 1, what if I do this? What's that, guys?
Positive 3.
It's positive 3. So that right there represents that positive 3 number right there on the number line. Okay? That's what that is. Which integer is that?
Positive 5.
Positive 5. Okay? Now, if those were positives, what do you think that is?
Negative.
It's a negative. And if I was to ask you which integer on that number line does that represent, what is it?
Negative 1.
Negative 1. See how this works? So how about, challenge you guys a little bit, what about that?
Negative 4.
Negative 4. That red negative 4 up there, that's what that integer is. Okay? So these tiles will represent an integer on that number line. All right? Now, any questions about that so far? Okay, hopefully you find that pretty easy. Now here is where some extras come in. Let's see how many of you guys were listening. I have that. And I have that. What's that called? Who could? Ooh, who said that? I'm impressed. Nice candy there. 0 pair. All right, it's a 0 pair. All right. So everyone, a 0 pair. Remember our vocab. What's the value of 0 pair? Which integer does that represent, guys? 0. The value is 0. It's like they cancel out. There is no value to it. How about this? What does this represent? Yeah, a little bit of a trick question. That's still 0. Why? Because all 3 of those sets cancel each other out. That's still 0. I can put however many on here as I want, and as long as I put 0, they're in 0 pair, they're paired up together, it's always going to represent 0. They cancel each other out. Okay? So what if I do this? What is it? Very good. All these zeros, you have a whole bunch of these counters, the algebra counters on here, but what's left is that little one by itself, and that's the value of the integer. It's a negative 1. All right? How about that? 2 or positive 2, right? You guys see how this works? All right, a little trickery here. Ooh, some of you guys got it because you see. Connect those. If that works for you visually, you got to connect those. And what do we have? Negative 2. Okay. So you have to have an understanding of how this works before we actually do some of the problems on here. Okay. So any questions? All right. So here's what I want you guys to do at this point. Okay. So if you don't already have them done, here's what I would like you to do, okay? Have your book out. You can go ahead at this point. We're done with vocab, so you can put your vocabulary notes away. So go ahead and put your binder away. So I would like you to have your book out and your counters on your desk. Eyes up here as soon as you're ready to go. Book out, counters on your desk. All right, thank you, ladies. About 3, 4 of you, 5. All right, gentlemen, good job. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 people ready to go. All right, counters are out. Book is out. All right, so if you haven't already done this, go ahead and take your book, flip it to page 201. 201. 201. I'll write it up here on the board for you guys. Page 201. All right, so your book page will look something like that. Yours is fancy. Yours is in color, right? So, here's what I would like you guys to do, okay? What I would like you guys to do is to go ahead, take your book to where it is either on the bottom or up top or over to the side. It's up to you. What the main point is I want you to have a workspace where we're going to put our tiles. So these tiles here, I'll sometimes call them tiles, okay, integer tiles, but go ahead and move the tiles kind of up, keep them separated, positives and negatives, move them over to the side, and then have your book on your desk, and then it's somewhere on your table, okay, or on your desk, there's going to be an extra space, a working space. Okay, a lot of times you'll hear me call this the table. Okay, the working space is the table. Okay, so I'll say, okay, guys, what's left on the table? All right, that just means what's left in your workspace, all right, for the value. Okay, so here's what I want to do. Okay, I want to go ahead and do this with me here. I'm going to go ahead. I'll fold this where you guys can have a better view, since my table is small here. Down here at the bottom, okay, I'm going to go to problem number 5, all right, on that page. So problem number 5, of course, I want us to be able to read this correctly, okay? So all of these problems, here's what it's going to have. It's going to have the first integer. In this problem, it's -6. It's going to have, because the whole lesson's on adding integers, it's going to have an addition operation. And it's going to have a second integer. In this case, it's +5, because there's no sign with it, right? So -6 plus +5. Those are going to be our directions when we solve this problem. So here's what we're going to do. The very first thing I'd like you to do, you could even consider it step 1, is to go ahead and place the first integer on the table. So in that case, -6. So here I go. And you're going to go ahead and do this with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we have -6 on the table. Now, remember the concept of addition. All right, the concept is like if you have a backpack and you have a bunch of books in there, okay, because I'm sure you guys don't have hardly any books in your bags, right? Yeah, right. Okay, and I ask you to add, oh, here's another book. Add this book to your backpack. What does that mean? Well, I know it means addition, but doesn't it mean you're going to put more books in your backpack? You're putting more on, or more in your backpack. Well, in this case, this is putting more on the table. So, of course, more on the table. How much are we putting on the table? And that is, of course, our second integer. All right, we're going to put 5 positives on the table. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, here's what I want you guys to do next. You might want to write this as a little note to yourself. Okay? Before you get an answer, make 0 pair. Remember we just did that earlier? Meaning match up positives and negatives, as many as you can. I'm going to match them up. Ladies and gentlemen, what's left on the table? Ta-da! And that's our answer. -6 plus 5 is -1. It's that easy. Okay? Question?
Couldn't you just take away 5 negatives and be left with -1?
That's not what the problem's saying. Okay, you're going to be able to develop some rules. You're going to discover rules, and so maybe your level of thinking right now, maybe you're already thinking. That's a good sign. But for the activity at the start, stick to following the directions, and those are those directions, meaning the problem will walk you through it. Okay, but good. Keep up, because you're gonna see in just a bit that it's going to want you to discover easier ways to do this. Okay, that's our goal. Okay, guys. Any other questions? All right, now I'm going to introduce something to you guys for the first time. All right, And here, remember I've been talking about I need to get to real lessons with you. I need to get to real lessons. Well, this is going to be pretty close to a real lesson. Okay? After I try one, okay, in just a second, I'm going to have you guys try one. All right? As a matter of fact, now that I think about it, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have you guys try one, and then I'll explain the very next step. So let me go ahead and have you guys try one, and then I'll explain what I'm about to talk about. So here we go. The one I want you guys to try, go ahead and clear off. Don't confuse yourself. Clear off the table. All right, have your workspace there. The very next one I want you to try individually on your own is I want you to try out problem number 6, the very next one. Problem number 6. Okay? I'll give you guys about 1 minute to do that. All right? Try out problem number 6 on your own with tiles. Okay? Go. Once you get your answer, leave your tiles on your desk. Okay, leave your little counters, your integer counters on your desk. Okay, so here's what I was going to talk about, okay? I already kind of explained this, but now we're going to start doing it, especially when we have enough time in class. And that is, you've already worked on it yourself, you've given it a try. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to, not yet, in just a second, I'm going to partner you up with a partner. It's a sharing partner. I'm going to give you a specific person that you're going to share with, all right? When you share, I'll give you different ways to share at times, okay? So for today, what I want you to do is I want you to share. For today, I'm going to want you to share. I'm going to want you to share your answer, and then I'm going to want you to share the integers on the table. All right, meaning your workspace. That's why I told you to make sure you left them on your workspace. Okay. So I want you to share to make sure not only the answers match, but your work matches as well. Okay. Listen, because this is our first time doing this, and this hopefully not this year, but every once in a while it'll pop up. There's a disagreement, someone has different answers, and someone all of a sudden has this idea that the louder they get, the more convincing they'll get. No, it's -6! And they start yelling at their neighbor, okay? That's not the way to convince them. The best way to convince them, if you guys don't agree on the answer, is to show your work. Back up your answer with your work. That's the best way to prove it and talk about it. Because the ultimate goal here is to help each other. And sometimes you might find out that maybe you're the one that got, you did one little step wrong, or you just miscalculated a little simple, mistake, and then you'll be able to catch it. That's why we share. All right, so here's what, gentlemen, I'm going to have you guys do. Here's your neighbor, this is your partners, okay? For right now, maybe into the near future. Maybe we'll switch up sometime, but this is your partners for now. Every 2 rows. So you guys are going to partner up, partners, partners, partners. Okay, the next 2 rows, you guys are across the way, so if one of you guys want to move a little closer where you guys can see each other's work, I'm okay with that. But partners, 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 okay? And then partners, 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 partners down this middle 2, all right? Partners, partners. You guys get that is partners? You 2 gentlemen, partners. All right? And then partners, partners, partners. Now, a couple of things, okay? One is this. Every once in a while, someone's absent. There's someone by themselves. Our goal is to not have anyone by themselves. So that person, please be a kind group, or you will become a group. You're just partners right now, but be kind. Invite that person in where they share. So that person could just get in with these 2 people there, or those 2 people there. I don't care which one, as long as they're involved, okay? And they are able to get some feedback as well as share their answer, okay? The other thing, and kind of goes along with that, is that as we become comfy with some other people and become friends with people around us, maybe we're not exactly best friends with our neighbor. Okay, that does not mean that you're going to choose your own partner. Okay, when that starts happening, then we start having half the class not have a partner, and then no one's able to share, or half the class isn't able to share with someone else, and that's not beneficial or kind to anybody. Okay, so you need to share. If you guys get done sharing and then you want to turn and share with someone else because you still have a few seconds left, I'm okay with that. Okay, but your first person you need to share with is your assigned partner. Okay, so remember, on this case, share your answer and then share your work. All right, are there any questions? All right, here we go. I'm only going to give you guys 30 seconds. It's not like a long time, okay? You don't need a long time. So 30 seconds, turn to your assigned partner and go ahead and share your answer and your work. Go.
I got 5. So I circled plus sign 5, and I got 6 of the negative ones, and I got 5 of the positives. And I know, are we doing which ones are we doing? 2, 6, 8. Oh yeah, I got positive. Well, we got positive 5. Yeah.
All right, so hopefully it sounds like you guys did a really good job. Everyone went to their assigned partner. See these little things like these kind of giant popsicle sticks? Okay, these here have these little numbers. Okay, and these little numbers aren't just for decoration. These little numbers match up to the numbers on your desk. All right, so what I'm going to do is after you guys share, you have a chance to do the problem yourself. Then you have a chance to make sure you got it right by sharing with your neighbor, and so you feel comfortable with your answer and how you did it. And then a lot of times I will pull a stick and I will let you share with everyone, okay, on what you got. All right, sometimes I'll ask for the answer, sometimes I'll ask you to walk me through the problem to give me the answer. Okay, it all depends on the timing and everything else, okay? So just kind of know that they're here, all right? And know that more times than not, I'm going to pull one of these to ask questions. I can just randomly, I don't even look, I don't strategize on who, I just pull one randomly and ask that person. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. Today, I want to be able to get through this activity as well as a little mini lesson at the end that's related to this activity. So for today, for right now, I'm going to show you the work. I want you just check it out, look, make sure your work matches. So here we go. Here's what you should have had. All right, -2, right? So you would have shown 2 negatives. We're adding on 7 positives. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See all those? Now, of course, we make our 0 pairs. So always think of 0 pairs because that's canceling some out. What's left on the table, everyone?
5.
+5. Okay, now I'm going to introduce one other thing to you. Some of you, I actually went around, some of you guys already knew what this meant. I'm very proud of you guys, but I didn't show you, so I need to show you. See these little boxes down here? You're not only going to write down your final answer, but on here you're going to write down, or you're going to do a little quick drawing of your answer. So on mine, I have 2 0 pairs on the left, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positives. You see that? So make sure you record that down as well. All right, and then just going back to number 5 really quick, let's just record that down. We had 6 negatives, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we had added on 5 positives, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So I'm going to go ahead and record that, showing the negative one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we have 1 negative left. Okay. All right, any questions? All right, there's one other kind of problem that's going to pop up. All right, and I want to make sure that I show you how to do this one where you're not confused, because some people, if you're following directions like we just did, it'll be very easy for you. Some people, they'll kind of start coming up with their own method, and then these are the kind of problems they'll miss up on, so be careful. Okay, so here we go. Let's go ahead and on the same page, let's look at problem number 2. Problem number 2. All right, so problem number 2. I'm going to go ahead, same exact steps. So my very first integer is 3 negatives. Negative 3. 1, 2, 3. Remember what I said. This is to put more on the table. What do we put more on of? 5 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ladies and gentlemen, what's left on the table? Okay, now listen carefully because this is extremely important. This is the other one that a lot of students struggle with early on. If you put that, that is incorrect. Okay? Why? Because it's not a negative 8. Some people love to argue with me. They say, but Mr. Wilkins, it's just a little line. Well, I tell you what, look up there. Okay? You see 8 compared to negative 8? Look how far apart they are. They're completely different integers. Okay? So 8 and negative 8, right? Now, people go, but they're pretty much the same. No, they're way different. They do look similar, right? But there's a couple of teachers on campus that look similar to me, and they're not Mr. Wilkins, or I'm not them, right? So just because you look similar doesn't mean you're the same. So you have to make sure you're saying the exact answer. So make sure you don't forget that negative 8. That's very important. Okay, so negative 3 plus negative 5 is negative 8. I'm going to go ahead and record this down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 negatives. All right, I'm going to have you guys try one like that. Any questions? Okay, this one, question?
If the second number is bigger than the first one, you go towards 0.
Okay, so see that's what I'm talking about, guys. Some of us will have rules in our heads, and hopefully our goal today is to straighten those rules out to know when to use some of those rules. This one's obviously not one of those times, okay? So kind of keep your mind clear right now, no matter what rules you think you know right now. Someone yesterday said, but 2 negatives make a positive. No. Okay, now that is a rule that's out there, and it's a true rule, but not to this problem. So our goal is to correct those rules. Try to keep a very open mind today, okay? And maybe some teachers taught you some good rules with some other kind of problems, but they aren't these type of problems. So be very careful with that. All right? Okay, I'm glad you guys have been asking questions like that. That's fantastic, because those are very common. Okay? All right, any questions, guys? Questions? Okay, here's the one I want you guys to try out on your own. On your own first, all right? On your own. All right, go ahead, and I think hopefully we're a little bit better at this now. I'm going to only give you about 30 seconds to do this. I want you to try out problem number 3, the very next one right underneath it. Problem number 3. Make sure you guys clear off your table there before you get to work. All right, problem number 3 on your own. All right, go. All right, 30 seconds. Your assigned partner. Go ahead and share your answer and your work. Go. Make sure you guys are sharing your work as well. Back it up with your work. All right, guys, a little reminder. Sometimes when people are in a good discussion and the 30 seconds goes off, I'll let them just kind of wrap up their discussion. I'm okay with that, as long as it's about the lesson. If you're talking about what you're going to do a break or something, that is being off task. When that buzzer goes off, you're ready to go. Okay, I want to point something else out before we do this and you guys check your work right now. I walked around and a few people after they did this problem realized that now they knew how to do all the problems. Here's what I want to tell you guys. When I teach you a lesson, okay, don't work ahead on new type of problems I haven't taught you, because I'll teach you different types of problems within a lesson. But once I teach you a, let's say I give you 1 minute to try out a problem. You try it out, you get it within about 15 seconds, right? Or even maybe it takes you a minute, but I'm giving some people extra time. During that time, you can work on all of the problems that are like that problem. Work ahead. Okay, I'm okay with that. As long as it's like the problem I've already taught you, work ahead. Now, if it looks completely different, please don't work ahead. Okay? But what I'm saying is use your time wisely. Get your homework done in class. Okay? So many people like to do that, they get done, then they like to talk about break, and then they go home, they have a bunch of homework, and they're like, oh, I don't know why I have so much homework. Well, it's because you're not doing your work in class, okay? So if people are taking a little extra longer on some problems, but you're done, it's okay to do the other similar problems. I'm okay with that. All right? Some people have already done that. That's awesome. All right, here we go. Number 3. Okay, number 3 says -5 plus -4. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead, show this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. -5. Add on another 4 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 9 negatives, or my integer would be -9. I'm going to go ahead and record that down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 9 total negatives. Okay? Questions? Okay. Here's what I would like you guys to do. Okay, I'm hoping that these papers here, or on this paper here, you have 4 more problems. I'm hoping that you're fast enough to do them about 30 seconds each. So if you take a look, 4 30 seconds parts are 2 minutes. I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes to finish up 1, 4, 7, and 8. For those of you that get done a little early, you can start looking at 9 and 10 if you like. We're going to talk about that in a bit. But for right now, 2 minutes, 1, 4, 7, 8, just on your own. All right, go. Okay, does anyone need more time on those 4? Okay, all right. I'll give you guys probably about 30 more seconds, okay? Okay, so here we go. For right now, I just want you to share your answers, okay? Unless, of course, you guys disagree on one, but I'm going to just have you share your answers. That's it. So I'm only going to give you guys 30 seconds for all of them, since all you're doing is sharing answers, okay? So you're sharing answers for 1, 4, 7, and 8. 1, 4, 7, and 8. All right? 30 seconds. Go.
For 7, I got 5, and for 8, I got -2.
Okay. All right, so it's very important for you to have the right answer. So listen, instead of taking the time to just do all of them using tiles, you guys already did that. If you followed the directions that we've used, you should have been just fine. I am going to put answers up here where you can check your answer. If your answer doesn't match and your neighbor's doesn't match, or you guys had the same thing and it doesn't match up here, please let me know. We can go over it, all right? So here we go. 5 plus 6. When you used your tiles, and I know that for some of us we can recognize that as math facts, but you still have to back it up with your work, okay, with tile work. It's 11. 7 plus 3 was 10. 8 plus -3 is +5. And 3 plus -6 was -3. Okay? Any questions? We're good? Okay. All right, here's what I'd like you guys to do. Okay, I want to go over these, and I'm going to give you a little bit of time to try these out. All right, take a look. Let's start one at a time here. Let's take a look at number 9. Okay, number 9 says, study the exercises in which both add-ins are negative. What do you notice about the sum? Ta-da, there is those words, add-ins, sum. So I'm going to try to actually help you decode this if you need it. All right, first of all, it says, study the exercises. What that means is, look at the problems above, and with both add-ins, remember add-ins are the numbers in the problem. All right, so both add-ins, these integers in the problem, find the ones where both of them are negative. Then it says, what do you notice? So you're going to find those problems where both of them are negative. What do you notice about the sum? Remember, the sum is the answer to the addition problem. So what do you notice about the sum? Bless you. All right. So, find out. So take a look. For number 7, for example, are both of the add-ins negative? Nope, then they're not talking about that problem. You're looking at the problems where both of them are negatives. And then you're going to look at the answer, the sum. What do you notice about the sum? What do you notice about the answers? All right, so here's what I want you guys to do. Okay, go ahead, and I'm going to give you guys 1 minute. All right, I think we'll check in 30 seconds. Let's try 30 seconds. Go ahead and take a look and find those problems, all right, and find out what you can see about the sum. All right, 30 seconds. Go. And then go ahead and write a sentence if you haven't already done it. A lot of you guys have. Go ahead and write a sentence if you haven't already done that. Find those problems. What do you notice about the answer? And then write the sentence. What do you notice about it? Write the sentence. A lot of times the parentheses at this level, all they do is the hell is weird. So they just see that it's just for visual. It doesn't have any value. It just makes it easier to see. And then what do you know? Okay. Listen, if your partner is stuck, I see a lot of you guys already wrote your sentence. Awesome. Okay, it doesn't have to be a paragraph. If you did, fantastic. If you're extremely clear about it, it doesn't have to be. Nice simple sentence. Complete sentence, but a simple sentence is fine. Okay, so here's what I'd like you guys to do. I'm going to give you guys another 30 seconds. All right, and during those 30 seconds, you use my phone for the timer since my timer just burned out on the desk. All right, during those 30 seconds, go ahead and during the 30 seconds, go ahead and turn to your neighbor and share what your sentence says. And if someone didn't see it, then that's a perfect time to listen to the person who did, where you can share the correct answer. All right, so go ahead and turn to your neighbor and share what did you find out about those two problems. Go.
I got, when I looked at it, that it's all
Number 2 and 3 both start with negatives and then repeat negatives, but then I don't like Yeah.
It says, study the exercises when the atoms are both negative. So number 2. Number 2, they're both negative, and so the answer is a negative.
Okay. I'm going to just take a volunteer. I rarely take volunteers. Okay, I usually pick the sticks, but I'm going to take a volunteer. Anyone brave enough to tell me, what did you notice about the two sums? What did you notice about the two sums?
They both have parentheses around the second integer.
Okay, now be careful. Okay, that's why I went over that vocab, right? You're looking at the add-ins, not the sums. So they use the add-ins, right? They said which ones are both. By the way, which problems are both negative add-ins, guys? Which problems are they? 2 and 3, 3 and 2. These are the two problems. So they're saying, what did you notice about the sums? So not about the add-ins, but about the sums.
That it's always a negative number.
So they're a negative number. Someone told me, and I thought it was a good observation. They said, well, Mr. Wilkins, the two integers, they're one away from each other. And it's actually true, too. So sometimes you don't exactly know, especially if there's only two that you're comparing. You don't know what the answer is, okay, sometimes. But what they did want you to notice is that when both add-ins are negative and you're adding them together, the sum is negative. All right? So when it says, what do you notice about the sum? They are both negative. They're both negative. That's what I meant by a simple sentence. Okay? So if you didn't have that, then just write that. Okay? If you expand on it, that's fine. Okay? Think about it, guys. When you have negatives, counters, right? And you add on more negative counters, well, it's not going to be positive all of a sudden. You're adding on more negatives. It's getting more and more negatives. Your answer is always going to be negative when you add up two different negatives. Okay? So that helps. All right? Number 10. Okay, we're going to do this one, and I'll give you guys a little stretch break, all right, before we go on to the back. All right, so here we go. This is the one, it says, study the exercises in which one add-in is negative and one is positive. Okay, can someone tell me which one of these, or just give me one of these problems that 8? Okay, one add-in is positive and one is negative. You see that? That's the kind of problems they're talking about. So they want you to find all of those problems. 8's one of them. And they want to know, what do you notice about the sum on those? So what do you notice about the sums? Okay, I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds again to find those problems that look a lot like this, where one of them is positive, one is negative. Okay, the add-ins, one's positive, one's negative. And they want to know, what do you notice about the sums? All right, so 30 seconds. Go ahead and do that part on your own. Go. Just write the simple sentence as soon as you take a look at them. Okay, I'll give you a hint. It's going to be very similar to number 9, obviously. Timer's done. All right, anyone needed more time? Okay. All right, 30 seconds. Go ahead and turn to your neighbor and share your sentence. Go.
It's negative even though there's
All right, guys, here we go. Number 10. So, look at number 8 was one of those problems. Number 7 was one of those problems. Any others? 5 and what? 6. They're the bottom 4. Look at the sums. What do we notice? They could be negative or positive. So we're going to go to write that. Make sure you have that. They can be negative or positive. They can be negative or positive. Okay? So you're saying like, okay, Mr. Wilkins, well, all right, well, which one is it? All right, well, that, how do we know if it's negative or positive? That's what we're going to find out on the next page. All right. However, like I said, before we get to that page, I'm going to give you guys a little. We don't have a lot of extra time in class, guys, and we need to go over this second page here. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys. I'll give you guys a minute stretch break. All right, to kind of stand up, stretch. You can talk with your neighbor. All right. Relax a little bit. So I'll give you guys a minute stretch break to relax. Take a couple deep breaths starting now. All right. Yes, but there is something about one of the that's smaller so you're right. Alright, so my little timer birdie went off. So go ahead and make your way back to your seat. Sorry guys, I usually try to give you guys a little more time, but I want to make sure we get through this. All right, here we go. Here's what I would like you guys to do, okay? I want you to fill this out here in a second. Now, to be able to fill this table out, you're going to need to understand what these headings mean. Kind of like the last questions that were being asked. To be able to fill this out, you need to know what these headings are. So take a look. 5 plus negative 2. All right? You can go ahead and you can use 5 plus negative 2. It's not asking you to record your answers or anything else. Use your tiles if you need to. All right? And so 5 plus negative 2 is positive 3. So where it says sum is where you're going to write the answers. Okay? Now, in just a bit, I'm going to give you guys some time. I tell you what, let's do that first. Now, I do want to point something out to you, though. You'll be able to use your tiles for problem number 11 and probably problem number 13. Look at these though. You don't have that many tiles in front of you. So what it's starting to do is it's starting to make you try to think, okay, I have 7 positives, 12 negatives. I put my 0 pairs together, what's left? Okay, so it's starting to get you to think that way. So do number 11 and number 13 first, and then go to 12, 14, and 15 and try to use some mental math when it comes out. You'll still have to probably calculate maybe with your pencil a little bit, but try to think about that. All right. The nice part is you can do these problems with a partner. So I'm going to give you guys a minute, and I'll check in with you in a minute. All I want you to do right now is just the sum. Just the sum. All right? So 1 minute. Any questions, guys? All right, so go ahead, turn to your neighbor. All right, and go ahead and get started on 11 through 15. Just the sum. Go. Hey guys, like I said, you can work with your neighbor. You're only doing the sum. Some of you guys are not having the sums done and you're filling out the whole chart. No, focus on the sum. If you get done with the sums first, then you can kind of fill in the chart. I need all of the sums done. All of the answers to the problems. Okay, I'll give you a few more seconds because some people weren't following directions. Okay, a few more seconds. I shouldn't walk around and see one partner completely done and the other partner still working hard, not understanding. We're working with partners right now. Please work with your partner. And if you're done, please help them out if they need some extra assistance on a couple of those. You have that whole thing filled out. Should your neighbor done? Are you guys done? Where are you working together? It looks like you guys are struggling. I'm not asking for partners to just copy the other partner. I'm asking for the person who's done to help the other person. Explain it to the other person where they can get it done as well. This is wrong. That's why I said focus on the numbers.
I got 8.
Follow directions. It will help you out in this class if you follow directions.
Here's 20 positives, and then you'll have 12, and then you'll have 12, so those are all 0, and now I'm going to 8. Or 9. Never mind.
Okay. Thank you, those of you that are trying to help out. Go ahead and make your way back to your seat. Very proud of you guys for helping others. All right, here we go. Number 11. Okay, those of you that did it, what was the sum? -4. Okay, we'll start with the easy ones. Let's skip down to 13 since you were probably able to use your tiles on that. What was that one? 5, right? +5. Now, these are a little more challenging. This is where some of us got stuck. If you take a look, we have 7 positives. I'm going to add on 12 negatives. Then in your mind, you're going to make 0 pairs. Well, what's happening? These 7 positives are going to cancel out 7 of those negatives, right? So what would be left? If 7 of these positives are canceling out 7 of those negatives, wouldn't I do something like this to find out, oh, there's going to be 5 negatives left? negative 5. You see that? I'm thinking. You have to use some mental math here. Okay, we've already messed with the counters. We have 7 positives on the table. Put on 12 negatives. Make your zero pair. These 7 positives are going to cancel out 7 of those negatives. What do we have left over? We're going to have some negatives left over. There's more negatives there. Well, how many? Well, I do this little extra math on the side to figure it out. 5 negatives. So if I do the same thing here, it's a lot of negatives, 12 of them. That's a lot of positives, 20 of them. They're going to cancel each other out. 12 of these negatives, I'm making zero pair, are going to cancel out 12 of these positives. Well, 20 of the positives, 12 of them wiped out. How many are going to be left? Well, if you want to figure that out and you can't do that mentally, what's 20 minus 12? 8, right? It's 8. 8 what? Positives, because there's more positives here on the table. Same thing here, 15 positive, 18 negatives. 15 of these positives are going to cancel out 15 of these negatives. There's going to be negatives left over, right? How many? 3 of them. Of course, it's negative, though. 3 negatives left over. Now, this was pretty easy. Sign of the sum. Okay, for example, 3 is positive, so positive. What's this? Negative. All right, what's this? Negative. Positive. Positive. What's this sign? Negative. So it's just asking what sign is the answer. Is it a negative? Were there negatives left over? Or were there positives left over? Okay, now, this one is always the biggest pain every year for students to understand. So that's why I'm going over it with you. It says the sign of the add-in with the greater absolute value. You're like, huh, what? Okay, well listen. Add-ins are these 2 numbers. It's saying, first of all, absolute value is how far are they away from 0. So how far is negative 2 away from 0? 2. How far is 5 away from 0? Which one has the greater absolute value? 5. You know what this is actually saying right here? What's the sign of the number that's further away from 0? Well, out of these 2, 5's further away. So what sign is it? Positive. Take a look at these 2. Which one's further away from 0? Negative 6. So the sign is negative. Which one's further away from 0 here? The negative 12. So what's the sign of that? Negative. 4 and 9. Which one's further away from 0? Yeah. Positive, right? How about on this one? Which one? Is it positive or negative? Positive. 20's further away from 0. So the sign is positive. Positive 20. Which one? We like to think, instead of thinking absolute value, our minds usually think, oh, which one's bigger? Well, you have to be careful with that because realistically, positives are always bigger than negatives. But I do understand what you're saying. As long as you know that you're figuring out which absolute value is bigger, that's what you're really figuring out. That's what it is. So which absolute value is bigger here, or which one's further away from 0? Negative 18, so it's negative. Let's take a look at 16. Write a rule you can use to find the sum of 2 negative integers without using the counter. So we're not talking about this. We're talking about problem on page 201. We're talking about number 9. When you added 2 negatives, what was the answer? Negative. But we need to take it a step further. On number 2, how do we get the numerical answer? How do we get the 8? Why isn't it negative 2 or negative 100? How do we get the 8? Take a look at the problem, guys. 3 plus 5. Congratulations. 3 plus 5. You didn't know that as a 7th grader. It's not good. All right? 3 plus 5 is 8. The negative, we added 2 negatives. So there's our negative. So if I'm going to write this rule, can't we say when I add 2 negatives together, my answer is negative. To get the number, I would add, and we have to be careful here, I would add the absolute values of both add-ins. 3 plus 5. Don't say just add the numbers, because that means you're adding -3 and -5. You're adding 3 and 5 to get the 8. So right here, write a rule. You can find the sum of two negative integers without using counters. You could say you add the two, sorry, probably not 2 would be the best, the absolute value of the two addends. You add the absolute value of the two addends. Then make sure the sum is negative. Right? You're adding two negatives. Anytime you add two negatives, you add the absolute value of the two addends. So 3 plus 5 is 8. And then make sure the sum is negative, right? Because you have negatives plus more negatives. Your answer is always going to be negative. Okay? So that's 16. Now what they're doing is they're going to ask us 17. Write a rule you can use to find a sum of a positive integer and a negative integer without using counters. Here's what they're asking you to do. There's a reason why they had you fill out this chart up here. They want you to take a look at these two sections. What do we notice about these two guys on this chart? They're the same. There's a reason why they had you do this. They're the same. The sign of the sum, the sign of the answer, positive, negative, comes from the sign of the, what you guys would like to think, the bigger number, which is really the one further away from 0. Okay? The one with the bigger absolute value. So if you want to know the sign of the sum, look at the bigger number. That's going to tell you. Okay? The one with the bigger absolute value. How do we get the 4 though? Look at 6 and 2, 4. 7 and 12, 5. 4 and 9, 5. 5 and 2, the answer is 3. How do we get the number? You subtract. You subtract the absolute values. So when they're different signs, one's positive, one negative, subtract the numbers. 5 minus 2 is 3. And then you take the sign of the one with the bigger absolute value. 5 is further away from 0. Since it's positive, our answer is positive. Look at this. 6 minus 2 is 4. The 6 has a bigger absolute value, further away from 0. It's a negative, so the answer is negative 4. Why does that work? Well, using the counters, it's because there's more negatives left on the table after you make 0 pairs, right? Of course it's going to be a negative answer, because that's what's left after you cancel out. Canceling them out, we were actually subtracting. So let's go ahead and write what I was just saying. Write a rule you can use to find the sum of a positive integer and a negative integer. So here we go. You, instead of add, you subtract the absolute value of the two addends. You subtract the absolute value of the two addends. Then take the sign of the addend. We're going to use big words here, but it means just of the number in the problem with the larger absolute value. Meaning you take the number in the problem that is further away from 0 and use that sign. Okay, listen carefully. Okay, because we need to go over the rest of our homework tonight, which is the worksheet. All right, but for tonight's homework, I know we didn't do them in class, but you still need to finish 18 and 19. It will go with this activity. Okay, so don't forget. All right.